I'll push the button once and that little symbol goes away and they can hear us.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
This is Rapid City School Lines. We can hear you.
Okay, I had it on mute, so I'm sorry. Okay, again, this is Bernie Grimmy from Division of Rehab Services. Make sure you have your site muted. And when you do need to talk, say your site name, your name, and the question or the response to what I'm asking onto here. This is a video conference this morning for reimbursement rates for certified employment support specialists. The presentation is being recorded. You may have heard that this morning. It's being recorded for future use for people that were not able to attend today. If you do have a cell phone, please make sure that's muted. I am going to go down the roll call of sites, and I'm almost certain I'm seeing Rapid City School for the Mines. Is that correct?
Yep, we are connected. Thank you.
Okay. Let me go down the list. Is Aberdeen, are you there?
We're here, Bernie.
Okay. Thank you, Laura. Brookings, are you there?
Brookings is here.
Okay. Also, on some of your sites, if yours has a Polycom system with 2 microphones, please make sure both of them that are out on the table. Otherwise, if one gets behind the TV, it does get the feedback. Chamberlain, Department of Human Services, are you there? Steve Reese?
Chamberlain's here, Bernie.
Morning, Steve. This is Pierre, capital A. How about Pierre site conference room A? Are you there, please?
We're here, Bernie.
Okay. Kieran, Carmen, are you there?
Yep, Kieran's here.
Okay, thank you. Mitchell, are you there?
Yes, we're here, Bernie.
Okay. Rapid City Department of Human Services, are you there? Rapid City? Rapid City DHS?
We're here.
Okay.
We're here.
Okay, thank you.
We're just trying to get the camera turned around.
Yeah. Otherwise, we're seeing a green wall. Okay. And I can't control yours, so let me see.
I don't know why that's doing that.
You need to press the camera button camera. I don't have the remote in front of me to guide you guys through it stuff. So let me continue on the sites. Sioux Falls small conference room. Are you there?
Small conference rooms here.
Okay, thank you. How about the larger conference room in Sioux Falls?
Sioux Falls Large Conference Room is here, Bernie.
Okay, thank you. How about Sioux Falls Rehab Center?
We're here.
Okay. How about Watertown Department of Human Services?
Watertown is here.
Okay, thank you. Winter Department of Transportation, are you there? Winter Department of Transportation? Keith, would you check out there with them to see if it got connected or if there's no one there, they can usually tell you.
With Winter?
Yeah.
Site?
Yeah. Yankton Department of Human Services?
Winter is in Chamberlain.
Oh. Yankton, are you there?
Yes, Yankton's here, Bernie.
Okay. And I thought I heard someone. Was that Winter just spoke up a minute ago? I thought it was Chamberlain.
Yeah,
I
we're in
already-
Chamberlain.
Oh, you guys came to Chamberlain.
Yes.
Okay, because I did tell Becca that I added the Winter DOT site and stuff. So, okay. Aaron, are you on by phone? Aaron, are you on by phone? Keith, I'm gonna need you to check that quick too. With Aaron Weisman's
We're
gonna
waiting
call it.
for him, Bernie. Call
Oh,
in.
he's still waiting for him. Let me just send him.
Yeah,
a-
we had an issue. He's got to call back.
Okay, so he's been trying.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Aaron from APSI will be calling in a minute. Do you know if he's going to call right back then?
I told him to give me a minute or two, so
Okay.
he should be coming.
Okay. Yeah, just let me know when he gets connected in. I got some stuff first to cover, and we'll just give it a minute first, okay?
Yes, we do.
Did Rapid City, did you get your camera equipment figured out? Rapid City, did you get your camera figured out? I'm going to start with a couple things here first. There is a sign-up sheet at the sites. Please make sure that you do route the sign-up sheet around and people sign it. And then I even have on the bottom that you can scan it to my email address or you can fax it to me. So if you're on the sites, just please make sure you get that back to me.
We got it going. Did you get it? The camera's going in rapid.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Right there.
Okay, thanks, Krista. Also, there were some documents that were sent out ahead of time and probably some made copies at your site. There is the memorandum of the February 18th. Memorandum of the February 18th on this new initiative, the memo. There is a PowerPoint from APSI on their certification. And also there is a PowerPoint on the reimbursement and employment rates for certified employment support professionals. We're just going to give it a minute or two for Aaron from APSI to connect. He doesn't present right away, but I do want to have him get on board from the beginning. So just give us a few minutes. I'm going to put it on mute.
Yeah, if the phone caller in?
Aaron, you on? Yeah, we hear you good.
I'm here.
Okay. Okay, then we will start. Thank you. So we got everyone on. Aaron, we have probably 15 sites, probably over 100. I didn't get exact count. People are doing the sign-up sheets and send them to me later. I'll get the exact numbers. But again, today, and you guys hear me okay, or do I have it muted?
I'm good.
Okay. Other sites, you can hear me?
We're good in Sioux Falls, Bernie.
Okay, good. I just can't tell when I got this thing muted or not. So, this is a new initiative. We're starting with Division of Rehab Services and Service of Blind and Visually Impaired. I'll kind of go through portions of what DRS and SBVI is new on this initiative, and then I'm going to have Aaron from APSI present on their certification. So we're going to coordinate this PowerPoint between the two of us. So please bear with us. Also, if you need a large print of this document, I can send it to you. Also, on the Division of Rehab Services website, we are putting a link called Provider Resources that you'll be able to download these documents at a later date and also be able to access the video conference that's being recorded. So the purpose of this initiative, and we've had some discussions for some time, is to improve the skill level of the providers that Vocational Rehabilitation Services is purchasing services from. And we've been purchasing typically job placement, job coaching, support employment services for quite some time, and have a pretty good resource provider network across the state. But also, we're going to offer higher reimbursement for those who have that higher skill level and have that knowledge. As part of this, providers will need to go to ongoing training, and Aaron will talk about that as part of the continuation of the continuing education credits that they'll need. But also, providers need to have a knowledge of person-centered training. So there's two components into this for the high reimbursement. Is the one that individuals have received the person-centered training, and they have also become certified that they'll have the higher reimbursement rate. The intent is to improve the service to individuals with disabilities. We've had a number of individuals for some years and family members express concern about one, the reimbursement rate to providers for these services, but also ways to maintain a higher level of quality, a skill level for the individuals. The new service rate is going to be effective June 1st, 2015. June 1st is when we typically do a service rate adjustment and our contracts. And I don't have the exact amount of our service rate increase. Typically, we go somewhere between a 2 and a 3% increase during that period of time in our rates. We send it out. For the individuals who meet this requirement being certified and attended this training, they will be reimbursed at a 25% higher than those individuals who are not certified. The person-centered training I mentioned is equivalent to the 2-day person-centered training that has been provided throughout the state already. We had trainings in the past in Sioux Falls, I think Aberdeen and Rapid City. We are coming out with some additional trainings, but also there has been trainings that have been provided by the community support programs that I will accept from a letter from their supervisor and what that training is. What services are typically going to apply for this? It's going to be the job placement, the job coaching. It'll be the independent living that we may purchase from a service provider. It'll be the situational assessments. It's typically those services that we are purchasing from an employment specialist. And also as part of this initiative, we will reimburse the individual or provider the cost that they will have for taking the examination. And again, Aaron will discuss that more in a few minutes. Our intent is to maintain a list of these individuals who are approved, but also the list of all providers. So when we have individuals needing job placement in a community, we will share a list of those providers who are approved providers in that community, and will designate which ones are certified, but we will not designate that it's a higher cost or anything like that to the individual. Also, another thing is we do have some times where some providers are just in a private provider where they're the only individual in their agency. We do have other times where a larger agency may have multiple providers, and in those situations that we approve the individuals in those agencies and not the agency as a whole. So if an agency has 3 providers, 3 employment specialists. 2 of them are certified and have gone through the person-centered training. Then those 2 can submit reimbursements at a higher rate than the one that has not been approved. We will probably also in those situations have authorizations showing our current standard rate, but when the provider does meet the requirements, they can submit the billings for that higher rate, and we'll process that. You know, we're just going to have situations that if we don't know if everyone is approved in an agency, that we're not going to automatically use the higher rate. It's just when the provider who meets these requirements can process the billing at the higher rate. If it's a private provider and we know it's that one individual, we may do that situation there. Also want to mention that the types of positions that we're going to do the reimbursement for the APSE certification is going to be those individuals who are doing the job placement, the job coaching, those kind of supports. If you have a question on a kind of position, please email me first to see if this was something we'll reimburse instead of taking an examination and then having to dispute the issue there afterwards. You know, I may consider individuals who oversee or supervise the employment programs, but I don't see reimbursing the certification rate to case managers or independent living or people who work only in residential that we don't purchase services from that may not apply onto there. So if there's any questions on the position, email me ahead of time. There's been a number of people asked about training to prepare for the APSE certification, and there is no specific course to take to help you answer those questions or prepare specifically for there. But we have been providing training and will continue to provide training on many of the core areas that are similar of the APSE certifications based on. We have currently going out, and I sent the email out this morning on the Social Security work incentives. That is a one-day training, and those trainings are happening in Sioux Falls, Rapid City, Mitchell, and Aberdeen. Those trainings are like April 15th in Sioux Falls, April 23rd in Rapid City at the Department of Labor office, April 28th in Mitchell, and May 13th in Aberdeen. And those are just examples of some of the trainings that we will be providing out there that will help people to better understand some of the core competencies that will be covered in the certification. These are similar trainings that we've done in the past, and we're also looking at other trainings being done by Center for Disabilities, more similar to the historically what we've done in Employment Specialist Training series, but they're going to be broken into 2 groups. Our first phase of those trainings will probably be in, I believe, April or May, and we're looking at 3 locations of Sioux Falls, Rapid City, and Aberdeen for those. We're looking at later on in probably late summer, fall, to have a continued follow-up training, again, for employment specialists. That's done by the Center for Disabilities. And those dates and locations will be sent out on an email list that I have. And if you're not on that email list, like I sent a couple emails here, one this morning and one last night, please email me and I'll get your name on the list. I didn't include the directors of community support programs, as they may get a lot of emails directly. I did include more of the job developers, employment specialist staff to make sure they get this information. Many of these trainings are going to require a registration, so make sure you do get the information on them and follow the registration procedures. The Social Security work incentives and the ones at Center for Disabilities trainings are being covered by Division of Rehab Services, so there is no registration cost involved into there. Also, we have the fall conference coming up October 13th, 14th, and 15th, and that'll be in Sioux Falls. And again, we do have a track and a series of sessions that are targeted for employment specialists. We are also having some person-centered training sessions that the dates, I don't know if they've been quite finalized yet, or the locations. We're just working out the locations of them. And those will also be made available in the 3 locations across the state and Sioux Falls, Rapid City, and Aberdeen. Again, this will be similar to the the person-centered training that was done probably about a year ago. Feel free to attend it again, or if you haven't attended it, when that registration comes out, please sign up for that. Again, that will not have a cost involved with that training session for the person-centered training out to there. We're putting a lot of trainings together this year. We've done some trainings that are made available through webinars, free to providers, or also these other regional trainings that are happening right now. So if you do have any questions or you're not getting the list of those trainings, please let me know. We do plan to make those available on the Division of Rehab Services website, and I'll have that site posted at the end of the session. And so we'll have those listing that you can access at a later date. So before I turn this over to Mr. Aaron Wiseman on the APSE certification, I'd like to just take a few minutes to see what questions you may have on the information I have presented at this point in time. And keep in mind the actual questions on the certification. Aaron will be going through that in his presentation. We'll also have the opportunity for questions at the end of the session too.
Bernie, this
Okay.
is Matt and Brookings.
Yeah.
I was looking at the website, and I see that the requirements for certification indicated that you had to have a year of experience. Is that specific to job placement development experience or field experience?
Can we have Aaron cover that in his presentation, Matt?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I believe he has that covered and he'll be addressing that.
Sure,
So,
thank you.
okay. Aaron, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I hear you very good. I'll be running your slideshow, and I have it on the main screen. Let me I should say I need to toggle to it. And I have your very first screen on, and so we're ready to go.
Okay, perfect. I have my presentation pulled up on my screen too, so we can just run along together. Why don't we start at the third slide that says presentation goals.
Okay, got it.
All right. So the purpose of the presentation today is to define certification, accreditation, and their benefits, to review the development of the CESP certification examination, to review the eligibility standards and how to prepare for the exam, and what to do before, during, and after the exam. Next slide, please.
Next slide. Okay. What is certification?
All right. So certification is the process by which individuals demonstrate required knowledge and skills. Certification tests the minimum certification tests your minimum competency level. It is voluntary, independent, and is time limited, which means that it needs to be renewed. Next slide.
What is accreditation?
Accreditation is essentially, it's a certification for a certification by a third party. It ensures that certification programs adhere to strict rules and regulations. Next slide.
Okay, next slide. Okay. Next slide, CSB.
The NCCA granted the CESP program its accreditation on August 8th, 2014, after a 5-year application process. So obviously that's it's a pretty intense process for a certification program to obtain accreditation. We actually started the application process in order to obtain our accreditation right at the beginning of the development of the program. You have to show that you have a fully functioning certification process from start to finish, that you have all of the testing components, that you have all of the recertification components, and all of those things in line before you can become fully accredited. Next slide, please.
Okay.
All right, so certification versus a certificate. A certificate is evidence of participation in a program, sometimes a training, whereas certification is evidence of a predetermined level of competency, i.e. testing. So that's why sometimes you want to make sure that you understand that the CESP certification is a certification, that it's something that's maintained over time, as opposed to a certificate, which is a one-shot deal. Next slide.
Okay.
So, what are the benefits of CESP certification? The CESP is a mark of distinction. Obtaining the certification as a supported employment professional shows commitment to professional development and dedication to the field. Next slide, please. It may result in job advancement and or increase in pay. As Bernie mentioned, it's the higher reimbursement rate. It's also, there's an increase in safety for those who receive direct support from individuals who are certified by adding an extra layer of supervision and ethical standards. Next slide, please.
Okay, I'm here.
All right. So we're on slide 10. So industries where certification.
Yeah, it's industries where national certification improves salaries.
Perfect. All right. So those include law, medical professionals, teaching, information technology, financial planning. In some situations, certification is required in order to practice in a particular profession. In other industries, certification is in addition to. It just depends on which particular profession you're involved in. Next slide, please.
Okay.
So, how did APSI develop the CESP certification? We went through a role delineation study. The way that we do that is we had 588 people complete a voluntary survey study where they were tasked with identifying and ranking the skills and knowledge required for the successful performance of professional supported employment. APSI designed the survey using the core values as a framework. Next slide, please.
Okay.
So the core values that were used in the role delineation study were application of core values and principles to practice in legislation and funding, individualized assessment and employment/career planning, community research and job development, workplace and related supports, ongoing supports. And I just flew through those pretty quickly because we'll see those again later on during the presentation. Next slide, please.
Okay.
So this is just a visualization of what the role delineation study looked like. This gives you an idea of the types of questions that the individuals were asked during the survey. You were given a type of job function and asked how frequently or how often you did a type of activity or how often you used a type of skill. Next slide, please.
Okay.
And this is the same type of situation. It's just a sample item where you ranked the specific work that you did, frequency, and the amount of the degree of difficulty in which you felt you actually used that work. Next slide, please.
Okay.
This slide gives you an idea of the demographic information on the specific people who were surveyed. As I mentioned before, it was 588 supported employment professionals. That number was culled from the APSI membership. I'm not going to read everything here on the slide. This is just a basic understanding of the different walks of life that these folks came from. We tried to make sure that we got folks from a wide sample size so that we were making sure that we weren't just sampling or getting information from one particular sector versus the entire diaspora of supported employment professionals. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Once the certification exam was developed, the next step was to create the eligibility standards. So the eligibility standards fell into the categories of education, experience, and ethics. The ethics is the agreement to adhere to APSE's code of conduct. The educational standard is that individuals must have a high school diploma, GED, or equivalent. Next slide, please.
Okay.
The work experience requirement, and this is the question that was asked earlier, is 1 year of full-time work experience, which is 20 plus hours, working in the field of supported employment. You don't have to be currently working in the field of supported employment, but you have to have at least 1 year of prior work experience providing direct supported employment work. You can also have, if you don't have that 1 full year, you can have 9 months of full-time work experience, but in order to make up that 3-month gap, you'll have to have a training course. Next slide, please.
Okay.
The training course is an intensive training course that includes at least 32 hours of employment support professional related coursework. Now, I'm not going to go through and really get down into the minutia as far as the definition of that is concerned, because we do have a certification handbook that helps people get a more clear-cut definition of that information, and that's available to download directly from the website. Next slide.
Okay.
Actually, that slide explains exactly what I just said, so we can skip to the next slide.
The study guide?
Study guide. So there is no study guide produced or endorsed by APSE. The CESP certification, the exam, was designed to test the practical application of knowledge and skills one uses in their role as an a supported employment professional. Everything you do on a daily basis is basically your study guide. That's why we have the requirement that you have prior work experience, because we want people who have been doing this job for some time to be the ones who are testing and working and obtaining the certification. So people ask, how do I study? How do I prepare? Read through the certification handbook, look at the competency areas, and think about the work that you do on a regular basis. Now, I'll get to a little bit more of how the exam looks and the types of questions that you'll see, and I think it'll make a little more sense the reason that we don't have a study guide. Slide, please.
Certification handbook?
So the certification handbook was actually recently updated, so it does include a little additional information. It's not just the development of the exam. There are some there's a glossary of terms in there so that people understand the terms that we use and how we define things as far as supported employment are concerned, so that we're all working off of the same definitions of phrasing and terminology when you're looking at the exam. Next slide.
Okay.
This is a visual of the APSE website, and this shows where on the website you can find the certification handbook. If people are having questions, and this is obviously not the best, this is just a screenshot. So if you have questions and you can't find it on the website, feel free to email me. My email is going to pop up on the screen at the end of the exam, or excuse me, at the end of the exam, at the end of this presentation. If you don't get it, you can, I guess, Bernie, I'm sure you'll have people getting in contact with you. Feel free to forward my contact information to anybody who asks for it. I'm always available. Next slide.
Okay, I'm here. Exam.
The exam is 135 multiple choice questions. You have 3 hours to complete the exam. All of the questions are scenario based, and you're tasked with finding the most appropriate response. Next slide, please.
Example?
So all the following are common forms of transportation except for, so you have bus, subway, teleportation, or car. This is a very obvious one. It's one of these does not exist in real life. So that's an obvious answer. When you're actually thinking about the examination and the types of questions that you'll be asked, what you'll be looking at is you'll be presented with a scenario, and the basic structure of the questions on the test will be that you have a client who has this type of disability and they're looking for this type of service. And then you're given three, what do you think is the best situation for them? And you're given three possible wrong answers and then one possible right answer. And it's your responsibility to determine what you think is the correct answer. It's subjective in the sense that there could be some wiggle room, but there is a correct answer to the question in the test. I think that's quite obvious. Next slide, please.
5 domains.
So the 5 domains, and these are actually what we covered before, but this is to give you an idea of the exact composition of the exam, how much each one of these domains is actually covered on the exam. So you can see that there's a specific percentage of the questions that comprise, or the exam is comprised of. So next slide, please.
Domain 1.
So domain 1, application of core values and principles to practice, comprises 13 to 17% of the exam. Next slide.
Domain 2.
Domain 2 is individualized assessment and employment / career planning, comprises 23 to 29% of the exam. Next slide.
And then domain 3.
Community research and job development comprises 19 to 25% of the exam. And next slide.
Domain 4.
Domain 4 is workplace and related supports, and that comprises 27 to 33% of the exam. And then the next slide.
Domain 5.
Domain 5 is ongoing supports, and that comprises 6 to 8% of the exam. So, next slide.
Prior to exam.
So, what should you do prior to the exam? Read the certification handbook that I mentioned. Just go through that completely. You'll receive, once you've registered for the exam, you'll receive a confirmation email approximately 1 week prior to the exam date. If you don't receive a confirmation email, please call the office or email me directly, and we'll make sure that you're actually registered for the exam. If there's any issues, we'll make sure that those things are covered. For the purposes of confidentiality, we do not divulge registration information to third parties. So please don't have your supervisor or assistant or your best friend's friend call the office to see if you're registered to take the exam. The reason for that is, pretty simply, we don't want to tell someone who's not you where you are going to be at a specific place and time. That's just, it might sound paranoid, but it's best practice. So the only person that is going to be able to get the registration confirmation is you, so you should be the only one that calls. Also, just as a procedural note, when you're filling out your application, be careful. If you have bad handwriting, and that's okay. I know that I have bad handwriting, but it's very important that when you're completing the application, because you will fill these out by hand, they're on the website. You download them or print them off and then fill them out by hand and then mail them back or scan them and email them to us. We use all of the information on the application. We transfer that into our system, and we use that as the way to contact you. So we do all of our contacts via email. and other electronic forms of communication. So if we can't read your application, it's a little hard for us to communicate with you. So make sure that everything is written legibly and it's easy for us to read. Next slide, please.
Exam day.
Okay, so on the exam day, please arrive 30 minutes early so whatever time the exam is scheduled to begin, arrive 30 minutes early so that you have plenty of time to register and get signed in and get yourself settled. Bring a photo ID, as this will be checked at the door. Snacks are okay, but be mindful of the people around you, so don't bring a full meal, don't bring anything that's really noisy. The proctor will begin reading the exam instructions promptly at the listed start time. For example, the 9 a.m. exam, we plan to be there at 8:30. If you arrive late, you will be allowed to enter the room, but you may miss important instructions. Once the proctor says begin, you'll have 3 hours to finish. If you arrive late, you will not be given extra time. The proctor will just allow you to sit, and you'll have to pretty much figure out the instructions on your own. I like to give people an understanding of what's going to happen when they're in the room. In every exam, there's probably going to be one person who's going to finish so quickly that you'll wonder if they just gave up. You'll wonder if they actually finished the test, or if they just said, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore, and they just got up and left. Don't worry about that person. There's also going to be people who take every second of the allotted 3 hours. If that's you, good. Don't worry about it. I don't think that either person is going to be more or less successful on the exam. Some people are just really good at taking standardized tests, and some people need every second. They need to make every second count. So, just use the amount of time that you think is necessary. Next slide.
Don't panic.
Yep, this is just my goofy slide. This is from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy if we have science fiction fans. I'm a big nerd, so I like to keep that in there. I put this slide in here to keep things light. People tend to get nervous when taking tests, and that's perfectly understandable. I like to remind folks that they felt like they were ready to obtain the certification when they filled out the application and sent it in. When they're listening to these presentations or when they're actually sitting in the room, nothing's changed. If they were ready when they filled out the application, they're ready now. So they can just take a deep breath and take the test, and they're going to be good. Next slide.
Okay, following the exam.
Following the exam results are mailed out to your address of record. Again, this is why it's important that all the information on your application was accurate and legible. If there's been any change to your information in between filling out the application and the testing date, just feel free to email us and we'll update your contact info. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks for the information to get to you, and this has to go out U.S. mail. It can't. The score report and your result letter can't be. The results cannot be read to you over the phone. We can't email anything, and it just has to be sent out that way. Once you receive your results, if you are certified, then you're certified immediately. You'll receive your certificate a few weeks following the results letter, and your name will go on the website, and your certification will be good for 3 years. You'll be required to renew your certification after that 3-year mark by completing 36 hours of continuing education and paying your certification fee. If you're not successful on the exam, that's no problem. We've had people who weren't successful. You can retest as many times as you like, and there is no waiting period for you to retest. But you can just retest the next available at the next available site wherever. Whatever state you take the test in, it doesn't really matter. This is a national certification, so if you live in South Dakota, you can take it there, or you can take it in Texas or Florida or Las Vegas, wherever it is available. It does not matter. The fee is the same regardless of whether you are taking the test for the first time or whether you are retesting. Next slide.
upcoming exams?
So this is just a listing of the currently scheduled upcoming exams. I'm not going to read this off. This is on the website. This is everything that is set in stone as far as the schedule is concerned. If you don't see something, I think everyone on the call is in South Dakota. Is that right?
Yes, there's some VR counselors here too, but most of them are employment specialists doing job development, job coaching.
Okay, all right. So obviously this is everything that we have. So I'll just leave that as it is. Next slide.
Can I just add some comments on the upcoming exams, Aaron? That the ones for South Dakota is April 8th in Sioux Falls, and that is in the morning. And when you do go to the APSE's website, you do download the document. It'll tell you the locations of those and exact times. April 10th is in Rapid City, and then October 13th be back in Sioux Falls. And we do anticipate Division Rehab Service anticipates having them annually at the fall conference, and we may have them also additional times throughout the year in South Dakota. So they will be made available in the state. Okay, next slide is Stay Connected.
Yep. So this is a visual for our website. In the bottom right-hand corner, there is a section for APSE email updates. If you'd like to receive information on just general information on APSE and specific information on upcoming certification exams and things like that, you can go to the website, enter your email address, and you'll receive those emails and those particular pieces of information. Next slide.
And there's your information.
My contact info.
Yeah.
That ends the formal part of my presentation, so I guess we'll open it up to questions.
Okay. At this point in time, we'll open up to questions, and I think what we'll do is go to site. So I'll go down in alphabetic order. Aberdeen, do you have any questions for Aaron's presentation or any of the questions that information I presented?
Not formal questions. I guess I was just curious, since the accreditation had gone through, how many providers have, I guess, across the United States passed that test to date?
Well, it's an individual certification. So are you asking how many, what's the number of people have actually obtained the certification? Or how many are
Right.
Number of people.
No, the number of people, correct.
Number of people? It's over 800. The specific number I'm not sure of. I think we're almost at 900. So we've administered just about over 1,000 exams, and the pass rate is just about 80 to 90%. So we're in that 800 to 900 range.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Aberdeen?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Okay, Laura Brookings.
We don't have any questions at this time for Brookings.
Okay, thank you, Brookings. How about Chamberlain?
Bernie, we had one question. Can a person take the test without having the years or months of experience and then have that out of the way prior to gaining that experience?
Aaron, did you get the question?
No, I did, and you have to meet all of the experience requirements prior to being allowed to sit for the exam. Those are the minimum eligibility requirements.
Okay, thank you. One other question. Does the job coaching for a community support center for a good length of time, does that meet that criteria of supported employment or experience?
The community
support
support
element of supported employment.
Yeah, Aaron, a community support provider in South Dakota is the Community Rehabilitation Program. It's the agencies that work with individuals with intellectual or developmental disabilities. To help clarify that. And your answer was?
My answer was that job coaching is an element of supported employment. So, as far as my understanding is that yes, that would count.
Okay, thank you.
At our peer site, do we have any questions here? Go ahead, Billy.
Yes, like when we're taking the test and we've got so many other like support groups, I mean, like if we're an employment specialist and do we need to know like the benefits specialist part of it? And I mean, I realize we got to know some acronyms when we take the test, but I'm really having anxiety on the test. I'm not quite sure.
You know, taking test exams is not an easy thing onto there. And I believe, Aaron, am I correct? That handbook that's out on the website, it goes through those 5 core areas. And it kind of covers a little more specifics onto those. Am I correct on that?
Yes, it does. And there's a glossary of terms so that we do cover the terminology and then all the wording and things like that. And if people are concerned about any sort of specific laws or things like that, remember that it's a national certification, so we try to tailor it to things that are things that are general questions. So it's things that somebody who is in New Hampshire would be able to answer just the same as somebody who's in California would be able to answer.
Now, to help answer your question, Billy, is you don't need to be the level of a benefit specialist, certified benefit specialist out there, but there probably will be questions that relate to Social Security and Social Security work incentives onto there. And that's why we're offering these one-day training sessions around the state. Those should help individuals have some of the understanding onto there. Okay.
The test is designed to. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Aaron.
I was just going to say that with a test like this, it's designed to identify a basic level of competency as opposed to a level of mastery in the field of certified employment. So I think that's basically exactly what you said. I'm sorry.
Okay. Kieran?
This is Carmen from Huron. I have a couple of questions. Just out of curiosity, is there a number of correct you have to get out of the 135 to pass, or do you have to get a certain amount from each core area to pass, or?
Off the top of my head, I believe it's somewhere in the 70% range. It varies from test to test. So there's different versions of the exam, and it depends on that specific version. I think that where we are currently, it's like 70 to 76% of the test questions you have to correctly. But it doesn't, it's not specific to you don't have to get a specific number of the answers for domain 5 correct, or something like that.
Okay. Then my other question, just out of curiosity, is the test a paper test, or is it on the computer?
It's pencil and paper, yes. You fill out the information on the Scantron sheet.
Okay. And then, Bernie, this is probably more of a question for you. Just curious, if we do a authorization to CSP, and if they want to bill at the higher rate, should they put the name of the person on the billing so that we know that person is actually certified?
Billings are going to have to identify the person doing the services.
Okay.
So if you had 50 hours of job coaching authorized and 30 of it was done by the certified one, it'd be the higher rate. 20 would be the low rate if the other person wasn't certified onto there. I know that's going to be a hassle, but then again, if more people get certified, it may simplify things for the providers. So, Mitchell?
Question. Of the people that take the test the first time, what percentage of them pass?
I think that was
approximately 80%.
80%.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that was the first time number. Thank you.
Oh, I don't know, Aaron. Is that that may not include people retaking the test?
Yes, it is a first-time number. We actually don't have data on retesting because it's such a small sample size.
Okay. Okay. Rapid City at School Lines.
They say that was a paper test? Yes, is that a paper test? It's hard to understand, Aaron.
It was a paper test.
Yes.
Okay, so paper and pencil or pen?
Pencil.
Pencil.
Pencil?
I believe. Yeah, and like most testings, I think, Aaron, some of those supplies are kind of provided at the testing site or not, or people supposed to bring their own pencil?
Everything is provided. Everything is provided for the test takers the day of.
Any other questions, Rapid City School Lines?
Thank you.
Okay. How about the Rapid City Department of Human Services site? Nothing? Okay. How about Sioux Falls small conference room?
We don't have any questions.
Okay. How about the larger conference room in Sioux Falls?
I have a question on the person-centered training. If a person has had like a counseling class in the past that focused on different types of person-centered, I guess, theory and technique, would that count, or does it need to be a specific person-centered training?
I want the person-centered training that we've been doing in South Dakota, that the community sport programs have been provided. It does go through the various tools that are happening to there and the 2-day equivalents of it. Again, we've done the 2-day training last year. We're coming up with it again. So I don't think I would accept it that it was kind of integrated in some coursework. But I will accept if the community support provider, a lot of times they may have it as part of their new employee training, and they may be doing classes out there, and there's a number of the staff in community support programs that are trainers themselves and doing the training. If they could identify who the trainer was and the dates and amounts of times, those are what I consider. I probably won't consider something that is long, years and years ago. So that'll help clarify that.
Bernie, could you tell us how far back you would consider the training?
I think it's been more of an initiative in South Dakota for 5 years is what I'm looking at onto there.
Okay, thank you.
Bernie, we're
Yes?
back. We're back in Rapid City. There's a question about, can a person take a person-centered training after completing the examination?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, to answer to your question, you could take the testing on the April 8th and 10th, and then later on in the summer that person-centered training happens, and I get verification of that, then I'll approve you for the higher rate.
Okay, thank you.
Sioux Falls Rehab Center.
We have no questions.
Okay. How about Watertown?
There are no questions in Watertown.
Okay. Yankton?
No questions here, Bernie. Thank you.
Okay. I had just a couple other follow-up comments here. I was going to deal with two. And just a reminder that when I mentioned that Division of Rehab Services will reimburse for the examination cost, we'll reimburse after the examination. We're not going to pay for it up front. There's always always the potential that a person's sick that day or doesn't show up for the examination, then we've got to deal with collecting that. So it'll be payment will be reimbursed afterwards. Also, we will reimburse irregardless if you fail or if you pass, but we won't pay for it the second time, and we won't pay for it 3 years down the road when you also renew the certification onto there. I think also, I also want to mention that when we were looking at this initiative, and I think APSI really started promoting it last summer, last fall, about their national certification, we did want to adopt, if we were going to pay a higher rate, some level of certification standard that has been tested and has some core areas behind it. And we felt APSI does, with their CSP certification, does meet that for this field. And I appreciate the work they have done and putting that forward onto there. And also, APSI will be the mechanism that will be handling the continuing education credits of submitting those for the, I think, Aaron, you mentioned that within a 3-year period to renew your certification, you have to have 36 hours of continuing education credits. Am I correct in that?
That's correct.
Okay. And the trainings that we do in the state, the fall conference or even the person-centered training, a lot of those will qualify under those continuing education credits. Any of the trainings that we're involved with, that will make sure we issue a certificate of attendance. And Aaron, do those certificate of attendance need to identify the specific training it was, or maybe that's something I need to talk to you more later on about what needs to be included on that, so helping people to submit their continuing education credits?
Typically what happens is I review the renewal packet as a whole, and people submit just a certificate of attendance to begin with to cut down on the submission of paperwork. If the certificate of attendance is rather vague and it's not really clear what the topic of study was during the conference, then I may ask for additional information, but usually starting with that is sufficient.
Okay. Yeah, I assume people need to send in the agenda or something like that, the program that came from the conference or there. So once the person's certified, there'll be more instructions provided onto there. I also did want to mention there probably is a possibility out there that some of the larger agencies have many job coaches that are supporting individuals that are on the developmental disability funding source, and probably not always directly for vocational rehabilitation. If they're doing the job coaching out there, we will cover that cost for the certification for that employment specialist also onto there. We anticipate most of them are doing business with vocational rehabilitation, but a larger agency may have just assigned some staff to doing the ongoing supports portion of it, and we feel it's important that they have the same level of competency. The Division of Developmental Disability is not probably changing those rates based upon certification, but if a provider does want to get that certification, we'll work with them too on there. At this time, I don't have any other questions. I just want to open up one last time to see if there's any final comments or questions that people may have.
Bernie, this is Julie in Sioux Falls. With the 36 hours of training, do we need to get that approved ahead of time? So, for example, let's say Department of Labor in Sioux Falls is doing a training on some additional incentives that they have, or do we have to get that approved ahead of time, or do we just attend and send it in?
No, it doesn't need to be approved ahead of time.
Yeah. Aaron said it doesn't need to be approved ahead of time, but to give you an idea that and their provider handbook may talk more about it, typically the trainings that Division of Rehab Services does will probably fall within those categories that we're doing for into there. I'm not sure if some of those other trainings that, unless Department of Labor is doing one on Disability Employment Initiative, some of those would apply. But they may have to apply in some of these areas that, am I correct there, Aaron? I mean, it can't be just to a conference that doesn't have anything to do with a disability, does it?
Correct. So when folks begin to recertify, they're sent out very specific instructions on what counts for continuing education credit and how many credit-specific activities count for. So we'll give them the full breakdown, and all that stuff is available on the website at all times, just so that they can keep track of it to begin with. And what we'll do is, because it's always there, it makes it pretty easy for folks to look at that. And there are specific topic headings that need to be that the coursework needs to be under, and those are the same things that are covered on the tests are the topic headings that are approved for continuing education credit. So really, it's the same stuff that you're already doing.
And I don't think it takes too much to obtain, the 12 credits, continuing education credits a year, 36 over a course of 3 years. I think the Division of Rehab Service has been offering a lot of trainings. We've been also covering costs of some webinars. We've also been making trainings available regionally across the state to make it easier for them. And the fall conference has got a significant number of hours that would apply into there. So, Aaron, I do have a question on the ethics part of it. The certification does have some ethics standards for providers. And I don't think the continuing education credits never have so many hours for ethics. Am I correct on that? Continuing education is any of the areas?
We don't have there's no specificity on topic headings.
Okay. I do recommend that individuals that are pursuing the certification do read thoroughly the ethical requirements as part of the certification. And that was one of the selling points for us to pursue this route is there does need to be some level of ethical standards that providers also do follow in delivering the services to individuals. Are there other questions? I did put up on the site my contact information. Also, provider resources can be found at dhs.sd.gov/DRS. We are putting a link on the left-hand side called Provider Resources that we'll be putting some of these documents up there. When our fee schedules change, we'll be putting that on the site. This is also where we'll be posting the recording of the video for later reference for people. We had the schedule to 11 o'clock, but we don't have to stay that long. I just want to make sure we have plenty of time to go through the presentation and to ask the questions that people may have. I also want to take this time to thank AFSCME for all their work that they've done in putting the certification together. It is a major undertaking to establish the certification. It's more than we could have done and to maintain in South Dakota. So we appreciate the work that AFSCME's done. And Aaron, we do want to thank you for taking the time to present to us this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Bernie, before you go, we have one other question here from Mitchell, and that is the certification, once you pass the test, is good for 3 years. What happens after 3 years? Can you renew your certification, or do you need to retest?
Aaron, did you hear the question?
Yes, I did. You renew by completing 36 hours of continuing education and completing the renewal application and paying a renewal fee. Technically speaking, you can also just retake the examination if you'd like, but you run the risk of failing the exam and not reobtaining the certification.
Thank you.
I think your question is more specific, asking do you have to take the paper or the test again, which you don't, unless you let it expire and you want to once it's expired. Am I correct on that, Aaron?
Technically speaking, you can choose to forego doing all of the continuing education and just take the exam.
Yeah.
But I don't know why you would do that.
Well, if something were to come up and say, somebody got sick or something in that time frame, and you just couldn't attend the continuing education, and then you had to retake the test, and then you accidentally, or you flunked the test, can you pay the $150 again and retake the test?
You can retake it. But the question I do want to follow up here to more specific, what happens if a person signs up for the test, because you do pay the $150, I believe it is, up front before the date of the examination. You have to pay that time you're applying. What happens if a person does get sick, something happens in the family that they can't attend the examination date?
Well, technically speaking, there are no refunds, but I'll work with people to try to reschedule. If there are exigent circumstances, we'll try to reschedule them for another exam date for no fee, depending upon the circumstances of the situation. Sometimes people just don't show up, and in those circumstances, I just tend to tell people that, I'm sorry, they're kind of out of luck. But in the instances of inclement weather and things like that, I tend to be very lenient. People can get a refund or get a partial refund, and we work with folks.
I do want to point out, too, that the deadline for processing or submitting your application for the April 8th and 10th examinations, I believe, is the end of March. So that date is coming up here pretty soon. So don't wait till a day before the examination or just walk in. It has to be submitted ahead of time, it has to be approved ahead of time, and meet requirements for examinations. And the examinations, and I know a number of the counselors may be on the video conference that have taken the national CRC examination. It follows a very similar protocol, very structured on show up on time, the level of discussions that can happen during the examination, the proctoring. There's people that will be there to proctor the exam to make sure that it is being done within the guidelines of APSE or other examination that's being done. So, and that's part of it. We want to make sure too what's happening to make sure it's done consistently. The certification that happens in South Dakota is also, could be used in other states if they accept it for provider rates. Other questions out there before we disconnect? I do want to thank everyone for taking the time this morning to attend the video conference. I know I've had a lot of emails throughout the last month and questions, so a lot of those may have been answered already. I do recommend you go out to the APSE site, pull down that manual. It has a lot of good information in there. But again, also those examination dates for in April 8th and 10th. The deadline is approaching here at the end of March for submitting that application. So again, I want to thank everyone. Make sure you mute your system before we discontinue, and then I'll have the video conference people here also in the site. So I want to thank you, Aaron, for calling in and doing a presentation again today.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, have a good day, guys.
Bye-bye.
If you'd like to make a call, please hang up and try again. If you need help, hang up and then dial your operator. If you'd like to make a call, please hang up and try again. If you need help, hang up and then dial your operator.